Yeah, so last night I was listening to the Bill Burr H3H3 podcast, which I thought was kind of weird anyway. You know what I mean? Because that's like a pretty big guest for H3. You know what I mean? He's had some pretty big guests. You know, Jordan Peterson being on there, and people like that who are pretty hot. Right now it's pretty big, man. H3H3's kind of become like the secondary Joe Rogan on YouTube. I've been listening to H3H3 since forever. He had maybe not forever, when he hit like 800,000 subs. So I was a little bit late to the game on him, but been there pretty much a while. I've been listening to Bill Burr since forever. Since I saw him on the Chappelle Show way back. But I really became obsessed with him after the Philly meltdown. But anyway, and he's from right down the street from where I live, so I always find that fascinating. So he's got that Boston connection, or just outside of Boston connection, because we know what it's like when you're right outside of Boston in a suburb. You just I'm from Boston, because nobody knows what the hell you're talking about otherwise. So you just say you're from Boston, that way they don't confuse it with something else. But this is a weird one. This is a weird interview. This is the weirdest interview and the weirdest I've ever heard Bill Burr ever on anything ever. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think this is good. I still enjoyed listening to it. But it got very bizarre at some points. There was like a point where like Bill was like, this whole interview is ruined. He made some jokes. I don't think Ethan understood the jokes almost. It's like he took it for real or something. It was very weird. Bill was trying to like do his normal thing, and it was almost like a perfect storm, right? It was a perfect storm, it felt like, for something bad to happen. I also think Ethan, H3H3 is, I feel like he's a big fan of Bill Burr. So he's like a giant mark for Bill Burr, right? Which I am too. But I don't know. I think I could sit down and have a funnier conversation with him than like a human than Ethan. And I think it came out at times, you could tell he was just such a, like, almost starstruck that he had Bill Burr on his show. So he couldn't really conversate. He was really worried about what Bill Burr thought of him. And Ethan does something that sometimes I used to do in interviews, which I still slip into it, but I really used to do it, where, the guy comes on, he mentions something that you can relate to, so you want to tell him that you've had that similar thing happen to you as well. And, what ends up happening is you end up repeating the same stories every podcast about the lawsuit and the YouTube, and you start going in your YouTube and stuff like that. It would be like, the equivalent is, imagine if you went on a radio show to be interviewed or whatever, but all they kept doing is bringing up the radio industry and radio and how like that radio relates to whatever you're talking about. And it would just be like, okay, yeah, like it's kind of weird. It's not the best thing to bring up, but also the listening crowd, any of your active listeners are like, God damn, we've heard this story every week or every interview. What are you doing? So there was that, and there was just a bunch of bizarre moments, like this one, I guess. I don't know. This was weird. Well, by the way, I also think Bill was kind of a dick, which is weird because Bill Burr's not, and he wasn't, because then he would go right back like all normal. But it's like, I've heard Bill Burr, be really funny on podcasts. I feel like he could have really, it's almost like he was holding back because he didn't want to shred Ethan. I don't know. It was really weird, but it was like he was irritated to be there. It was like, why am I on this, YouTube stream? Despite the fact that it probably gets more views than almost anything. And I mean, Joe Rogan's podcast with Bill Burr would probably do 1 million, 2 million, 3 million YouTube views. Ethan's will probably end up doing about 1 million or 800,000 or something like that. That's a lot, And this is a guy, Ethan, who just started a YouTube channel. He's not even a Joe Rogan guy, was on TV and stuff. But it just felt like Bill Burr didn't want to be there. It was the meanest I'd ever heard Bill Burr. And he wasn't even that mean. He just seemed irritated to be there. And it might have been also that H3H3 was interrupting him all the time. So there was all these things going on. Like, H3H3 is a big fan of him. H3H3 is interrupting him all the time. Bill Burr seems kind of grouchy. H3H3 is getting nervous now, like I'm doing something wrong, and that's throwing him off because he's a big fan of Burr, and he feels like Bill is actually... Like, I even got the vibe that Bill was upset. Like, I got the vibe that Bill didn't want to be there. And when Bill would make sort of his classic jokes, but in less of a joke manner, he had more of a serious tone, even though he was joking. And I think that threw Ethan off too. The whole thing's a mess. But anyway, it's not as bad as people say it is. Listen to this part, exchange.
And he also had a zillion kids, so I mean, yeah.
Really? How many siblings do you have?
I don't know, dude. The internet's too fucking weird to give out all that information.
Oh, you don't even want to say how many because you're afraid that it will somehow
by all means,
compromise
keep
your
talking
privacy.
about it. Is there any way you can cut this out? I'm honest, dude. Like,
seriously?
Yeah, no, dude. There's fucking lunatics out there.
Okay.
Whoa.
Off the air, I'll tell you.
All right.
Jeez. I love how surprised he is. Jeez.
Well,
There's
you can mention the amount.
Absolutely crazy people out
Okay,
there.
yeah. No, I'm not.
What I got to do, what you have to do is just consistently lie and change names.
I do have friends.
It's true. Like, I mean, like, you know, we all have, even I have people. It's like, yeah, it's weird that he doesn't want to mention the amount of siblings he has. But it's also weird that, you know, Ethan really couldn't get over that. He was like, wow, like, it's that bad, you know? I don't know, like, the amount of siblings you have, is that really gonna, you know, like, do anything? But I get it. But, you know, like, we're, you know, because, like, YouTubers are stalked like crazy as well, you know? So Ethan is, H3H3 is, you know, so he could relate to that. But, you know, I don't know, Bill Burr said that. So, I mean, if I was interviewing, I probably would have said something funny. I'd be like, you know what, can I just put it out there? I'm just going to make it up. Bill Burr has 7 sisters and 7 brothers, and each one of those has 2 dogs, you know, like, or just mates, you know. Anyway, let's move on. You know, you keep the interview moving. But, like, H3 stopping it right there to make it weird, to put it back on Bill, is weird. Because Bill's like, oh, no, I'm not going to mention it. You know, it's crazy people. Jesus, can we edit this out? Like, what the hell? No, I'll tell you off the air or something. I don't know. All right, tell me off the air. Tell me about how big your penis is, too. Because a lot of people wondering that. I'm sure you don't want to give that out. But, you know, I want to know. Anyway, I got this other thing I want to talk to you about. You know, that's how you move on. If you move on the conversation like that, that's it. You know, then the comments actually might be like, damn, why doesn't Bill want to talk about his brothers and sisters? But now the conversation is like, that was awkward, you know, because Ethan doesn't quite have the social skills yet, I don't think, to communicate that way, if that makes any sense. And I think maybe Bill Burr, like, maybe Bill picked up on that and that was like weirding him out. You know, I don't know. Like, I'd have to speak with Bill to find out what the hell he was thinking. And he might go, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. He went on and did the interview. It was whatever. The guy was a little weird. It was all right. That was it. You know, but to me, it felt like he was irritated. I don't know. Whenever he won. And he kept making these funny faces at H3H3. And then at the end, like, the interview should just be over, right? And you know what it is this is total fanboyism, right? Because I would want to do this too, because I'm a fan of Bill, and this is, you know, I just love the Philly meltdown is like epic to me. It's like one of the most epic things. You know what I would have said to Bill if I had him on was like, hey, listen, I'm not going to really bring up the Philly thing because you've already beat that to death. But what I want to know is, when is there going to be Philly, like the Philly meltdown 2? Or have the meltdown in New York? Or, like, you know what I mean? Do you think that could ever happen again? Like, you could be in California, the next thing, you know, you're telling everybody in 1,000 Oaks to suck your cock, you know. Well, like, that'd be, you know, when do you think ever envision a Philly meltdown 2? You know, and hear what Bill has to say about that's funny. Like, that's what he should have asked. That's what I would ask. Somebody steal that, because I like to know the answer. Maybe he has answered that before. I don't know. You know, but I don't know. But with me, you know, Bill's from like 15 minutes where I'm from. You know, outside of Boston. I grew up here. He grew, you know, so like I get that. I don't know if Ethan, like, isn't Ethan more like West Coast or whatever? But I thought he started in New York. I don't remember. But there's more weird exchanges. I don't know what went wrong on this podcast, but it was just a lot of stuff equaling a bad storm of stuff.
I hope you did. I'm worried about you.
I did.
Thank God you got.
I'm playing it up. I'm playing it up.
All right.
But I'm trying to be funny, but
we are all worried about him.
oh my God! Now it got real.
It's very.
You have that dog,
very
man. You got
neurotic.
something to live for, right?
She's
Just looking at that dog's eyes.
yeah.
I hope.
See that now Ethan's like embarrassed. That's like the clip where he's now embarrassed. Like it's almost like him and Gila carried on a better conversation, because Gila probably isn't as much of a fan as H3H3 is for Bill Burr. So he's like freaking out. So at one point at the end, you know, H3H3's playing the clip of the Philly thing, And Bill's like, hey, you're really gonna play that again? Come on, man. Like, oh, like, can't believe it. And, so then H3H3 was like, oh, and then it's like, he goes, okay, I'm not gonna play that. That really bothers you, and like, whatever. And now it's weird again. Now the interview's weird again. And then he starts playing it anyway, and then he's kind of like mumbling as he's about to play it, and then he starts thinking about it, and he can almost see the cringe on Bill Burr's face. So then H3 realizes I'm not going to do it now, so then he abandons it and doesn't play it. But then they talk about it some more. Like, it's the cringiest thing. This is the cringiest and most bizarre Bill Burr podcast or interview of all time. I didn't think it was possible because I've seen Bill everywhere. Like whatever the case is. And he destroys every single time. I've even seen him in front of a couple of fanboy radio hosts, and he even destroys on that show. Right? And I remember thinking like, man, this radio guy wants to blow Bill Burr. And then Bill was just rattling off stuff, making the guy giggle and laugh, almost like Bill was like, I wonder if I make this guy laugh enough if he's going to just start giving me his phone number and trying to beat me off in the studio. But so that was weird. And but with Ethan, it was more like Ethan was like insecure, like he needed dad's approval or something. And listen, I didn't really have a dad either, so I get that, but like, what in the world, dude? Like, put your, like, fanboyism aside and do your audience the right way, And I think Ethan just got caught up in it. Or he, like, wanted to keep him there longer. It was, like, 2 hours into it when they were starting to play the awkward stuff on the video monitor. Like, they should have just cut it. Like, they should have just been like, all right, Bill, well, let's not waste more of your time. Here's the shows you're doing, whatever. And an hour and 30 minutes and it's over. An hour and 40 minutes and it's over. But they went 2 hours and 20 minutes of it was like, whoa. It was other weird parts like this.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then it comes on, and all of a sudden this guy, okay.
This is when now Bill Burr at some point makes fun of reaction channels, which is what H3H3 is. The commentary channels and the reaction channels. He literally makes fun of that.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then it comes on, and all of a sudden this guy, okay, you're not going to believe there's a wrestler. And I'm always like, shut up.
Yes.
I know what it is.
There's
I don't need you to
many.
stick your fucking face. Like, and it's like, this isn't even your fucking content. Mm-hmm. And like,
there's so many of those.
Yeah. So I'm sure I haven't seen the good ones because there's an art form to all of it.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised. Interesting.
Yeah.
Whew. All right. I don't know why that got so flat on my part. Tell me about all things comedy. I don't know. You see, I'm nervous. I'm sweating here.
I'm just going to let you sit.
I know you are. You don't have to save me.
You got to push through to the other side. It's
no, I know, but you don't have to save me.
Look at you. You're all sweaty. You're touching. Like, dude, if you were a reliever if you were a reliever on the other team, I'd have to come out and check you for Vaseline or something. You touched your hair and your grill a little too many times.
The funny thing was when Ethan goes, you sound nervous, and he started patting himself. And it was like, was that him talking to himself? Because Bill Burr doesn't sound nervous. Now, Bill Burr does sound a little bit bored and irritated. Like I got that vibe, like, oh, this conversation's gonna be awful. This show's gonna be terrible. And then, it was like Ethan said out loud, like, you sound nervous, but he was like he was talking to himself. It's very weird, very bizarre. Very interesting. That was the H3H3 podcast with Bill Burr. I still like H3H3's podcast. I mean, I actually think that and listen, I'm sucking my own self here, and maybe if I was better, I wouldn't, we'd have more viewers. But to me, like, I think the shows we put on are more exciting than H3's podcast, if that makes any sense. But I like H3's podcast still. Like, I regard Joe Rogan number one. Now, if I'm going to interview somebody, though, right? If I'm going to have an interview with somebody, like, I'm going number one is, like, Rogan. Number two, like, Howard Stern, maybe. And, after that, I don't know. But, even, like Stone Cold Steve Austin and Chris Jericho, maybe. If you go to the wrestling world. Ethan's not the greatest interviewer, but he's a fun, conversation usually. But not this one. This was very bizarre and cringe. But I still liked it in a weird way. I know if that doesn't make any sense. Like, the comments are just riddled with people crapping on this podcast. But, I thought it was, again, I think part of it is Bill Burr. Bill Burr seems annoyed. I mean, I don't know what happened before they started shooting this, because it seems like from the gate, that Bill has just got this look on his face like, why did I say I'd do this? You know, and then also like, this guy's annoying. But the biggest criticism came from the people saying, you know, H3 was interrupting him a lot, which he did, and that is the most irritating thing. Like, what basically I think what may have happened is every time Bill Burr went to explain something, right, he sort of starts getting in that zone. You get in the zone, like as a comedian or as a guy who's just trying to make people laugh. You know what I mean? And every time Ethan asked him something, Bill would start to answer it. And then he would start to almost build that zone, if that makes any sense. Build the zone. And as Bill Burr is building the zone, I call it building the zone. It's a thing that, I don't know, nobody else knows what I'm talking about. But as he starts to build it, Ethan would interrupt him again and be like, so what about this? And then he would just completely derive from it. So then Bill would have to counter and now start talking about that. And so like he was out of breath because he had just gotten excited about what he was going to say about the previous question, and then he was going to add to that by going in the zone, as I call it, which is like you can almost make one or two or three funny comments about the question or about whatever your answer was to the question as a comedian, I think. And Bill Burr could never get in that zone because Ethan would interrupt it. And it was like, just let him talk. Oh my God, just he's giving you material on your show right now. And Ethan a lot of times wouldn't let him get in that zone, which is depressing because so you start thinking about what you're going to say and then you come up with all these things and then you're about to say it and Ethan interrupts the punchline or interrupts the gold moment, the zone. And so then you just go, ugh, and then he asks you a different question and then you go, Saturday is going to be when I do that. And then, last time we did it, it was Sunday, but this time it's Saturday. Okay, well, anyway, what do you think about umbrellas, you know? And then Bill Burr's like, umbrellas? I don't know, you know, you go outside, you open the umbrella, and then, that's an umbrella. But, and then, Ethan's like, yeah, that's true. But, the funny thing about, well, anyway, let's talk about, and like, wait a minute, like Bill was going to maybe say something. Bill probably would have been like, oh, the funny thing on umbrellas, they're all shaped like unhappy faces. And then he might have just said some funny shit. But Ethan already killed that and moved on to the next thing. So when Bill's secondary question comes in the middle of his answering the first question or maybe even getting in the zone, he's just kind of like, water. I drink water. I don't know. I like drink water. So like he sounds irritated. I think that maybe that's what that was. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. My name is Joe Cronin. This is the Corrupted channel on YouTube. How the hell do I know anything? Man, years ago I tried to get Bill Burr on my show way back when. But the funny thing about that was it was 2011 or 2010. I tried to get Bill Burr on the show 2010. I probably could have gotten Bill Burr on this show if this show was happening back in 2007, right? In 7, 8, 9, or 10, I probably could have had Bill Burr on my YouTube show if it was as big as my show is now, but back then, right? But back then I had about 30 listeners, and Bill Burr had about 500. And I would say, or maybe less. Bill might have had 150, maybe 200. I don't know what it was. And I probably had 30. Nowadays, Bill Burr probably has, I don't know, 50,000 maybe more. I don't know, 50,000 committed listeners. And it'd be interesting to see what the download numbers are on his podcast. I don't know. But a very weird. I wonder if he'll bring this up on his show. I wonder if Bill will bring this up on his podcast. Because it was just so weird. Just so bizarre. Like, really weird. Anyway, I'll have more on this later. My podcast is going to be up. I do so many podcasts. We got the YouTube channel, youtube.com/corruptedpodcast here. Hope you subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button down below. Leave a comment if you want. What do you guys think about the podcast? Also, like my other channel, Joe Cronin Show. It's youtube.com/Joe Cronin Show. And if you guys want to support the channel, the best way to keep me making these videos, we need you. We need you, and there's 345 of you now. But we need some more help. And if you want to come over there, not only are you helping, you get 30 hours of bonus content, audio, podcasts, live, everything. You get tons more of me talking so you can kill your workday or your drives or whatever it is. Patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show. Download the app or go to Patreon. A lot of people are $5 a month patrons. They get 30 hours of bonus content. Some people are $10 a month. Some other people are 20 and 30 and 40. Some people are $1 or $2 a month. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want for extra content / whatever you can afford, feel free to jump over to Patreon and check that out. So you're getting it's not crowdfunding. It's it's a service. You get a bunch of stuff. Become a member of the Patreon, man. It's big. We're not censored like we are here on YouTube as well. This video will probably get a yellow $sign on it. What did you guys think of the Bill Burr episode with H3? If you saw it, if you didn't see it, what do you think anyway? I played some sound clips. It was weird. Any thoughts on all this stuff? Leave it down below. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'll see you tonight for Out of Nowhere over on the Joe Crone Show if you guys are watching that. Goodbye.